Welcome to Everyday English with Annie.
So glad to be here for today's deep dive.
Yeah, and today is actually a great opportunity for some English listening practice because we are exploring a really crucial distinction in the English language.
Oh, definitely. It's a vocabulary difference that actually translates into entirely different ways of living your life.
Right. We're looking at the difference between being rich and being wealthy, and we're pulling some amazing excerpts from Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money.
Which is such a fascinating read because, we tend to think that doing well with money is about how smart you are or like your IQ.
It is not, is it?
No, not at all. It actually has very little to do with intelligence and almost everything to do with how you behave. It's all psychology.
Right. Why we make the choices we do. And understanding this nuanced vocabulary, the rich versus wealthy thing, it can honestly completely change your financial trajectory.
It really can. And I
Yeah.
think the best place to start is with the illusion of wealth. What you see versus what you don't see.
Yeah, let's start with that story about working as a valet in Los Angeles, because this completely dismantles those visual cues we rely on.
Oh, the man in the car paradox. I love this concept.
It's so relatable. So imagine you're a valet parking Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Rolls Royces all day. You'd think you're surrounded by incredibly wealthy people.
Right, because you see a $100,000 car and you assume the person driving it is loaded.
Exactly. But when you see that exotic car, you aren't actually admiring the driver. You don't look at the guy in the Ferrari and think, wow, he's so cool.
No, you completely bypass the driver. You project yourself into the driver's seat.
Yes, you think, man, if I had that car, people would admire me.
Which is just the ultimate irony, right? The driver bought the car to get admiration. But the people on the sidewalk are just using the car as a benchmark for their own egos.
Nobody cares about the guy in the Ferrari. They just want the Ferrari for themselves. It totally backfires.
It does. And it goes deeper because the person in that car isn't necessarily even wealthy to begin with.
Right, like the story about Roger. So, Roger was this young guy who drove a brand new Porsche, and everyone in his circle just assumed he was absolutely crushing it.
Naturally, that's the signal he was sending out.
But then, out of nowhere, Roger starts showing up in this rusted-out old Honda.
And he keeps driving it. It wasn't just in the shop.
Yeah, and when someone finally asks him what happened, he just casually admits the Porsche got repossessed. He defaulted on his loans.
There are so many Rogers out there, People leverage to the hilt just to project an image of success.
Which brings us to the core vocabulary lesson today. We need to actually define these terms.
Right. So rich basically just means current income. It's highly visible.
Because you can see it.
Exactly. If someone drives a fancy car, they are almost certainly rich. Even if they're drowning in debt, you still need a high current income to qualify for that huge monthly payment.
Society spots rich very easily because it's loud. The big house, the designer clothes, all of it.
But wealthy is the exact opposite. Wealth is income that is not spent.
Wait, so wealth is the invisible stuff?
Yes. Wealth is the nice cars you decided not to purchase. It's the diamonds you left at the store.
The first-class upgrades you declined.
Exactly. It's financial assets like stocks, bonds, or cash that haven't been converted into visible stuff yet. It is silent.
Okay, let me try an analogy here from the material. It's like diet and exercise. Right.
The Bill Bryson comparison? Yeah, go for it.
So earning money is like exercising, but spending it is like eating a massive meal right after your workout.
Right. You see a fit person eating a huge burger and think, oh, I should eat burgers to look like them.
But you don't see the 3 hours of grueling gym time they did that morning. So true wealth is having the self-control to turn down the huge meal and actually burn the net calories.
That tracks perfectly. You can undo a massive income by buying expensive things, just like you can undo a workout by overeating.
And since wealth is hidden, since it's the gym time you don't see, it's incredibly hard to learn by imitating others.
That is the tragedy of it. We are constantly surrounded by rich role models, but the wealthy role models are invisible.
Right. The wealthiest person in your neighborhood is probably driving a 10-year-old Toyota.
Exactly.
Okay, so if true wealth is the money we don't spend, why is it so hard for rich people to hold on to it?
Well, getting money and keeping money are two entirely different skills.
The contrast between Ronald Read and Richard Fuscone just blew my mind on this point.
It's the ultimate case study in survival versus ruin.
So Ronald Read was a rural janitor and gas station attendant in Vermont. He drove used cars, chopped his own firewood, and lived in a house he bought for like $12,000.
Very humble beginnings. First in his family to graduate high school, I think.
Yeah. But when he died at age 92, He left behind an $8 million fortune.
And he didn't win the lottery or inherit it, right?
No. He just saved little pieces of his paycheck, invested in blue-chip stocks, and waited decades.
Just for context, blue chip stocks are those massive, stable companies that just slowly grow over time. Nothing flashy.
Right. Slow and boring. Now, compare him to Richard Fuscone. He was a Harvard-educated executive at Merrill Lynch.
A top-tier finance guy.
So successful he retired in his 40s. But then he borrowed heavily to expand an 18,000-square-foot mansion in Connecticut.
Oh yeah, the one with 11 bathrooms.
Yes. 2 elevators, 2 outdoor pools, and a glass-bottom indoor pool. Who needs 11 bathrooms?
Nobody needs that. That is pure signaling. It's broadcasting that you are rich.
But then the 2008 financial crisis hit.
And it turned his highly leveraged finances to dust. He ended up bankrupt.
A Harvard executive standing in front of a bankruptcy judge declaring zero income. And the mansion was foreclosed.
It's wild. A gas station attendant massively outperformed one of the top financial minds in the world.
Which you would never see in a hard science, right? The janitor couldn't perform open-heart surgery better than a cardiac surgeon.
No, of course not. But finance is a soft skill. It's guided by psychology. Getting money requires risk and relentless optimism.
You have to put yourself out there.
Right. But keeping money, that requires frugality, humility, and honestly, a bit of paranoia.
Paranoia? That's a strong word, but it makes sense when you look at Jesse Livermore.
Oh, Livermore is a perfect example of optimism without paranoia.
He was this legendary stock trader. In the 1929 crash, while everyone lost everything, he had actually shorted the market.
He basically bet against the economy.
Right, and he made the modern equivalent of $3 billion in a single day.
Which is just staggering.
Meanwhile, a guy named Abraham Germansky, who bet on the market going up, lost everything, and tragically took his own life.
But the key is what Livermore did next. Making $3 billion made him feel invincible.
He thought he mastered the universe.
Yeah, so he just kept taking massive risks. No paranoia at all. And 4 years later, he had lost his entire fortune too.
And he eventually took his own life as well, getting wealthy versus staying wealthy.
Both men were great at getting it, terrible at keeping it.
It reminds me of Warren Buffett and his friend Rick Guerin.
Oh, right. Everyone knows Buffett and Charlie Munger.
But there was this third guy, Rick Guerin, who was supposedly just as smart as them.
But he got wiped out in the 1970s because he used margin loans.
Right, borrowing money from your broker to buy more stock than you can afford.
And when the market drops, they issue a margin call. You have to pay up immediately in cash.
Which forced him to sell his shares at rock-bottom prices just to cover his debts. Buffett said they knew they would get wealthy, but they weren't in a hurry.
Yeah, he said Rick was in a hurry. It all comes down to survival. You have to survive the short term to get the long-term gains.
But wait, let me ask on behalf of the listener here. If I'm supposed to be constantly paranoid just to keep my wealth, doesn't that take all the fun out of making it?
It's a great question, and it feels like a contradiction.
Yeah, how can I be optimistic enough to invest if I'm always looking over my shoulder?
You basically have to balance a barbell of emotions. You need deep, unwavering optimism about the long-term trajectory of the world.
Okay, so believing things will eventually go up.
Exactly. But you pair that with an intense paranoia about short-term shocks.
Like recessions or sudden medical bills.
Right. The paranoia is your emergency fund. It ensures those short-term shocks don't wipe you out before your long-term optimism pays off.
So the paranoia is just a shield.
Yeah.
And that leads perfectly into the hidden engines of wealth, because when you survive long enough, you trigger compounding.
And compounding is mind-bending. Our brains just aren't wired to understand exponential math.
I mean, look at Buffett's net worth. It's around $84.5 billion. But $81.5 billion of that came after he qualified for Social Security in his mid-60s.
That is the power of time. It's like rolling a snowball down a hill.
It gathers a few flakes at first, but eventually it's a massive avalanche.
Right. Buffett's secret isn't just that he's a skilled investor, it's that he's been rolling that snowball since he was 10 years old.
Time is the actual secret, which contrasts so well with Jim Simons.
The mathematician who started Renaissance Technologies.
Yeah. He generated 66% annual returns compared to Buffett's 22%. He is, by percentage, a much better investor.
But he didn't really start investing until he was 50.
So he had a way shorter hill for his snowball. If he had started at age 10 like Buffett, his net worth would be $63 quintillion.
Which doesn't even sound like a real number.
No, it's ridiculous. It's more than the GDP of the planet. But it just proves that good investing isn't about the highest returns.
It's about earning solid returns that you can stick with for the longest uninterrupted period of time.
So how does a normal person do this if we aren't hedge fund managers starting at age 10?
Well, past a certain baseline of basic needs, your savings rate is simply the gap between your ego and your income.
I love that phrase, the gap between your ego and your income.
It's entirely within your control. You can't control the stock market, but you can control your internal efficiency.
So spending less isn't about punishing yourself or living in deprivation. It's actually about raising your humility.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
like an invisible shield against the keeping up with the Joneses effect.
Right. You are intentionally deciding not to extend your peacock feathers to impress people.
People who, going back to the valet story, aren't even looking at you anyway.
Exactly. Less ego directly equals more wealth.
Okay, but let me push back a bit.
Yeah.
If we're suppressing our ego and saving diligently and not buying flashy cars, what is the actual reward?
Freedom. The highest dividend money pays is controlling your time.
Waking up and saying, I can do whatever I want today.
Exactly. There was this study by a psychologist, Angus Campbell. He looked at what actually makes people happy.
Income, education, demographic.
He looked at all of it, and none of it mattered as much as having a strong sense of control over one's life.
Doing what you want, when you want, with who you want.
That is true wealth.
And the consequences for people who lose sight of that are terrifying. Look at Rajat Gupta.
Oh, that story is
He
heartbreaking.
goes from being an orphan in the slums of Kolkata to the CEO of McKinsey.
One of the most prestigious firms in the world.
Right. By 2008, he is worth an estimated $100 million.
Which is an unfathomable amount of money. The interest alone is thousands of dollars a day.
He had achieved total freedom, total control of his time. But it wasn't enough.
Because he started hanging out with billionaires on the Goldman Sachs board.
Right, the social comparison shifted his goalposts. He finds out Warren Buffett is bailing out Goldman Sachs.
A highly confidential tip.
And 16 seconds after the meeting ends, Gupta calls a hedge fund manager and gives him the illegal insider info.
Just for more money that he fundamentally did not need.
And they both went to federal prison. He lost his wealth, his reputation, and his actual physical freedom.
All because he was playing a game of social comparison he couldn't win. It's the same trap Bernie Madoff fell into.
Right, Madoff was running a wildly successful, legitimate business before the Ponzi scheme.
But he risked it all for more. He couldn't stop the goalposts from moving.
If your expectations rise equally with your results, there is zero logic in striving for more. You buy a Ferrari, your neighbor buys a jet, and suddenly you feel poor again.
The hardest financial skill is simply getting the goalpost to stop moving.
Which reminds me of that story about Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller.
At the billionaire's party on Shelter Island.
Right. Vonnegut points out that their host made more money in one day than Heller's classic novel, Catch-22, earned in its entire history.
And Heller responds, yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough.
Enough. It's such a powerful concept. So for you listening, ask yourself, are you defining the game you're playing? Or are you letting someone else set your goalposts?
Are you chasing the appearance of being rich or the quiet reality of being wealthy?
To recap our deep dive, being rich is just visible, current income used to buy things. But being wealthy is the unseen restraint. It's the saved money that buys you freedom and options.
And before we go, there's one final fascinating concept to chew on regarding success. The sibling relationship between luck and risk.
Oh, the Bill Gates story.
Yeah. In 1968, Bill Gates had the 1 in a million luck of attending Lakeside School, which actually had a computer terminal.
Almost no high schoolers on the planet had access to that technology, though.
But he had a best friend, Kent Evans, who was just as smart and driven.
They were going to build a company together.
But Kent experienced a 1 in a million risk. He died in a mountaineering accident before graduation.
Luck and risk are just two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. So we have to question how much of our own financial success or failure we are falsely taking credit or blame for.
Sometimes people are just lucky. Sometimes they just encounter a 1 in a million risk. So the next time you see that $100,000 Ferrari, remember you're looking at a carefully constructed illusion, not the full reality.
Things are rarely as good or as bad as they seem.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the vocabulary and psychology of wealth.
It's been great.
Keep questioning your assumptions, keep defining your own game, and we'll see you next time. Keep exploring.